predators to condemn your soul. Watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded. Watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other. Watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon. Desensitized in our lust for attention. Democratized by our voyeur obsessions. Watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection. Don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. I know you're out there somewhere. This is the new totalitarian state. 1,000 eyes are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
On the other side, as we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and broadcast to you live from the Great White North this Monday night, early Tuesday morning on the East Coast. Thank you so much for your listening in on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, and now on Revolution Radio. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we broadcast 3 hours a night, 7 days a week, because we want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, spiritual, conspiratorial, and so much more. Hey, if you like our music, all you have to do is click on Spaced Out Radio's website, and you'll hear the guitar god himself, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. He does all of our music, and you can check out a couple of his music videos by clicking on the Bumblefoot banner. Also, you can check us out on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and of course our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we say hello to everyone listening in on the Revolution Radio chat room on the High Plains Talk Radio Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, TCPS, Forest Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. Have you signed up for the SOR Space Travelers yet? No? Well, it's time. It's only $5 a month, and with that, your name gets entered into monthly prize draws, access to a private group interview, access to a special section on our website, and so much more. We're going to give you a heck of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on Spaced Out Radio, you can read our latest blogs. Mine is right up there right now. It's kind of cool, along with some very talented writers as well. You can also check out Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest in weird news. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. The new Agora newspaper is the official paper of this show, and the iTunes app Spirit Storybox. It's the official ghost hunting app of SOR. Remember, if you're a listener of Revolution Radio, it is the largest non-profit online radio station going. Take the time to visit freedomslips.com and donate today. One of the most haunted cities in the United States is down in Louisiana, where the 200-plus years of French lifestyle, combined with the voodoo and hoodoo, has made for a very strange and intriguing paranormal past. From the infamous life of the treasured Marie Laveau to the famed notoriety of violence that has haunted the city of New Orleans, it can be combined for the paranormal activity throughout the last couple of centuries. It's a town where there's not a lot of landscape. We all know the devastation that the part of the country felt when Hurricane Katrina devastated the land a decade or so back. But On a brighter side, New Orleans is a vibrant city that prides itself on its rich and oddly majestic heritage. I mean, who doesn't want to celebrate Mardi Gras? I've got my beads ready. All I need is a plane ride down. Cari Roy is our guest tonight. She is a world-renowned psychic. She's a paranormal investigator who's proudly based in the beautiful and courageous city of New Orleans and has received the honors of being named the best psychic medium in New Orleans by TravelChannel.com and recommended #1 psychic medium to see in the U.S. by BBCAmerica.com. We welcome in Cari Roy to Spaced Out Radio tonight. Cari, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Oh, I'm fabulous. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, y'all out in Spaced Out Radio land. Greetings from the Big Easy, the city that care forgot, and the mighty New Orleans.
Well, thank you so much.
We say New Orleans. We say New Orleans, not New Orleans. We say New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay, I'm Canadian, so you have to teach me this stuff.
That's why I'm getting you. I'm getting you in with the groove of
New Orleans.
Of the way we say it, because everybody can be a New Orleanian.
Got you. I got you there. And you know what? It is one of the places that I have wanted to visit in North America. It is on my to-do list, and I thank you for taking the time out, and I just want to let everybody know that your two chihuahuas want to be a part of this show, so if they hear any dog barking in the background, it's that they're trying to get in their own paranormal stories as well.
Absolutely. They're not just chihuahuas, they are vampire-slaying chihuahuas. These are fierce beasts. They are as close to werewolves as you can possibly find in a very small form.
Well, that's good.
So they just are very, they have had their experiences. Anybody, anyone is going to have experiences in New Orleans, because we really are the country's most haunted city. And I say that with great pride and just knowledge that this is the most haunted place that I have ever been. And I'm from here, and I feel so very lucky to be a psychic and a medium and paranormal investigator doing what it is that I do in this wonderful city.
How long have you been involved in this? Now, most psychic people realize that they have their abilities since childhood. And, you know, it's one of those things where it comes back to an experience or something that just triggers everything. Mine personally happened, I'm 43 now, mine happened when I was literally 38, 39. So it can happen at any time. But when did you start realizing that you had your own abilities to see and chat with the dead?
Well, I did actually realize that I was psychic at a young age. I come from an illustrious background of people involved in paranormal phenomenon and psychic arts, numerology, astrology. My mother was a medium. My grandfather was an astrologer and a numerologist. And so it's always been something that was accepted. When I was a small child here in New Orleans on Wall Street, for anybody who has visited here, it is where all of the great antique stores and art galleries are. Jackson Square backs up onto Royal Street, the cathedral. And I was on Wall Street, and all of a sudden, I really had like a Franz Kafka moment where I felt like a sardine in a can of dead people. I mean, there were so many. I just saw all of these people. I didn't know that they were dead. I just went from being on kind of a normal walk down the street with my mom to feeling as though I was being crushed by tons and tons and tons of people. And I fainted. My mother, when, you know, she brought me to, she asked me, and I was saying the people, and she had some familiarity with this already. So she, you know, just kind of took that as me having the gift as well, and we ran from there. And so I participated in seances from the time, as we would say in the South, I was knee-high to a grasshopper. It was just, the little women coming into the house, going into the dark room, the seances, the crystal ball, tarot cards. I got permission to smoke cigarettes, which I don't do anymore, but by asking my mother to consult her tarot cards and not telling her that it had to do with me wanting to smoke cigarettes. But, I mean, it's just something in my family that's very accepted, and I've been using it professionally. I'm not actually going to tell you how many years. I'm just going to say over 20 years.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my. This field, I have to tell you, is very new to me. And I'll tell you, I spent 10 years as a journalist. I worked mainly in sports. I never thought that I would be broadcasting a paranormal radio show ever in my life until, my happily boring life decided to end in December of 2011, and I still shake my fist at that. But on the flip side, when you have it, you have it. How do you keep it going? How do you manage to stay sane, for a lack of a better word, when literally probably every spirit in New Orleans, did I say it correctly? New Orleans?
Yes.
Okay.
New Orleans, bravo. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Give this man a drink. He won.
I got a prize there. I got a prize. But
yes.
when every spirit in New Orleans is trying to get a hold of you and say, hey, I need you to talk to my brother or my mother or my sister or my best friend, and how do you keep your sanity with that?
The greatest gift my mother ever gave me, upon teaching me how to do this stuff that I do, is that she said, little girl, before we learn to turn it on, we are going to learn to turn it off. And so I really do have a very good ability to focus my attention like a laser beam when I want to and when I don't want to. And so while I always feel it around me, I have had to kind of learn to just put up a force field, as you would say, tune into other things, shift my attention span. I think one of the reasons that I've been able to do it as long as I have done it is because I don't just dissipate the energy 24/7. I reserve it for the times that I really go in. And you were talking about, sports. I'm on top of my game, and I stay that way again by mindfulness, by other things. I've, continued education in kind of making my brain better, and I think a lot of it is just that I have a brain anomaly. I don't know if it's anything, of a spiritual, mystic nature. I think it's more that, I was born into a family that has in their brain maybe a little thinner space when it comes to space-time. There's a thinner divider between space-time and in what it really is in the world. So I do what I can. I take a lot of vitamins. I drink a lot of Rockstar, and which is an energy drink, giving them a plug for whatever reason. And I, just know what I'm walking into, too. So if I'm walking into a bar and I just want to get a drink, I'm walking into a bar just to get a drink. When I'm walking into a bar because there are spirits there, and there are spirits in pretty much every single square inch of New Orleans, but I will use a different part of my brain. Does that make sense?
Well, kind of. It's understandable. You have to be able to turn it off and on, because you cannot sit there and say, I need this to go 24 hours a day. It would drive you crazy. You would never sleep. You'd never be able to relax. So I can fully understand that. On the paranormal side, because I want to focus on that here for the next little bit, Cari, if you don't mind. That's so Canadian. So Canadian, if you don't mind. We've got a talk show going here. Anyways. That's
very polite, which is Southern, so I'm all with that.
Well, thank you. I'm just a Northern belle here, sitting with my dog right behind me, and a nice goatee. But what makes the paranormal so strong in New Orleans?
I feel that there are a number of contributing factors. I think that it's just we're old. We are so old. We started in the 1700s with the French coming here and, kind of claiming New Orleans, but before that it was Indian ground. I mean, we're old, we're swampy, we're old, we're like prehistoric. You come down to the swamps and you go through the swamps and you're like waiting for, a Tyrannosaurus Rex to come out. It's very prehistoric feeling. And so I think part of it is just we're so old, and there have been, in a relatively small space, New Orleans is it's not a huge city. It's a small space. It started out with the French Quarter, which is really just a little neighborhood. I mean, you can walk it in 5 minutes. You can walk the quarter. And so many people died there in that just small little area that I feel that, and we're dramatic. We're very dramatic. We're Southern. We have a flair about us. We have so many layers of dead people. I mean, just the War of 1812. I mean, it just plagues, gallows, hangings, duels, all sorts of stuff that are dramatic ways to exit the world. Hurricanes, catastrophe. Every 50 years, something comes and takes us out, and we rise back up. I think all of that has a very big energy that just maybe holds it just because there's so much of it.
I'm going to ask you just to, if you don't mind, to move your headset. I'm assuming you're on a headset because it seems to be rubbing against your collar or something. That's making a little bit of a clicky sound. I understand that Louisiana.
You got it.
Louisiana. I'm getting Patrick on Revolution Radio is trying. Patrick on Revolution Radio is trying to give me lessons here. Louisiana. There we go. Louisiana.
Yes.
All right.
Louisiana.
Now I got New Orleans and Louisiana. Okay, I've got it now.
Yes.
I've got it now. I'm proud. I'm going to wave the Louisiana flag now, or maybe LSU or somebody like that.
The pelican. Yeah, exactly. The tiger. Yeah.
Exactly. With a maple leaf in the other hand, of course. But
yes.
It seems like
we have a bar here called the Maple Leaf. Sorry, didn't mean to.
Oh, perfect.
To throw you there. They have great brass band music. Yep.
I would like to go there. I'm not going to lie. But when it comes to the whole state, it seems like there's a lot that gets rocked down there from the Gulf of Mexico. We all know what happened during the sad and horrid times of Hurricane Katrina and the hundreds, if not thousands, of people who passed during that. Why do you think that Louisiana is always hit with such torturous and treacherous events?
Because I think that we are the epicenter of soul. You go to a lot of cities in the United States, and when I travel to different cities, I go there and I sit there and I'm like, okay, well, the architecture, it's pretty, it's cool. Some places they offer, LA has a different feel, Miami has a different feel. But when I'm in these places, I just don't feel soul. And when you come to New Orleans, we have soul. And I feel like New Orleans is the soul of the nation. And as with any soul, you've got to grow, you've got to develop, you've got to overcome, you've got to experience, you've got to die and be reborn. And that's the pattern of New Orleans. We are the Phoenix city. We are the city that goes down in flames and rises back up, and it's because we're the soul of the country. And I'm not going to say we're the soul of the world because I haven't seen all the world, but we're definitely the soul of the country.
But yet, you wear the title down there of being the most haunted city in America, almost with some pride. Why does the city of New Orleans take pride in being so haunted?
There are people. We're a very community-oriented city. We're family. You come down here and everybody's your brother, everybody's your sister, we're family. It's an old New Orleans, this is the part of New Orleans that I'm from, they say, how's your mom and them? We ask about family. Our ghosts are our family. Our ghosts are our people. We take pride in them, just like you would take pride in your people. They're our neighbors. They're just our dead neighbors.
Why do you think
they're our family? They're just our dead family. Yeah.
Cari, why do you think the spirits still hang around New Orleans, pardon me? Why haven't they crossed over? Why haven't they gone to the light? Why do they continue to stay in that area?
Well, we do have a reputation for high tourist attraction. So, I think that goes with the living and the dead. New Orleans is a pretty awesome place. And so, while I will be happy to be able to, explore other dimensions when I pass, there is a part of me that is the New Orleanian and will always be a New Orleanian. And so, why wouldn't you want to hang out in New Orleans? If you could hang out anywhere, New Orleans is definitely the place to do it. And there are other reasons. We're a very Catholic city, so Catholic. And so, we really do believe in the 7 deadly sins, and, we believe that there is, I'm not my personal, but we collectively, the Catholic in us, believes in heaven, hell, purgatory, all that stuff. And so sometimes people, because they may not have lived the most, manicured life, they hang around because they're afraid they're going to go to hell. A lot of people died in dicey ways down here. You had the waterfront, which was our version of the Wild West that existed a lot longer than the Wild West. And the 1800s, there were bars on the river. There was Storyville, where there was prostitutes and gambling. And, it's a lot of, again, people dying in pretty dramatic ways. I think that this is just, we just, why not be here? It's, it's a nice place to, it's people flying in here all the time. So if you're deceased, I also have my own philosophy is that spirits do not exist in the same time that we do. And so I don't feel like they perceive time the same way. So when somebody's 300 years, what might be 300 years in my time as a living person could be 3 minutes in the time of the spirit. So I also think that they're not sitting there going, oh my God, it's been 300 years and I'm still here. I think they're just doing what they do. And I think there's residual energies, that are very different from actively present hauntings. And so I think there's, again, just layers and layers and layers. And, New Orleans, why not stay here?
Does the reputation of being a violent city really portray what the city in regards to the paranormal is all about? It reminds me in reading up on this, much like Las Vegas, that, behind the bright lights and the neon signs, there's a dark side where there's still bodies buried out in the desert from time gone by because somebody had a gambling debt. Would it be pretty much the same type of scenario? Similar, that is.
Worse, because we've been here longer. Again, the French Quarter is a small space. I say the term that I just say, I call it a paranormal petri dish here, because every block in this, in this city has blood on it. That's just the way it is from its inception. Again, Battle of 1812, a lot of bloodshed there, a lot of loss, a lot of, the violence up till today, sad to say, not in the tourist areas, but we still have violence. We've got a lot of liquor here. We always have. So, what tends to happen. So I think we're worse than Vegas, much worse, because we're older. So, and just more, and I'll tell you a couple gruesome things, I want you to picture this. If you, and any of your listeners, you have not yet, but if any of your listeners have been to New Orleans, there is the iconic Jackson Square, which is just a beautiful, beautiful garden. It's the place, it was the epicenter of the, and still is, of the French Quarter. And it's just beautiful flowers, benches, nicely mowed lawns. Jackson Square itself is just a really pretty, pretty park. And you sit there, but in the 1800s, that was where the gallows were. That's where they were hanging people. There's across from Jackson Square is our cathedral, St. Louis Cathedral, and then the back of that we have a statue that now, again, anybody who's come to New Orleans, we call it Touchdown Jesus, because it's a statue of Christ with hands up in the air. We call it Touchdown Jesus because we're funny. But in that part, which is just a little itty bitty, like half of a block or a quarter of a block, that is where people, now it's just nice little garden. That's where there were duels. I mean, people are getting just shot and bleeding to death there. And so it's worse than Vegas. Couple of mobsters, honey. We've killed people so many different ways in New Orleans. I mean, taking a dirt nap is just very limited. I mean, there have been a lot of layers and ways that people have died here. Again, plagues, fires, hurricanes, violence,
alligators.
Yeah, and that's still, that's where some people still go and get rid of evidence.
Yeah, that's why I like it up here. There's no alligators in the waters here. I like that up here. Way too cold for them. Way too cold.
And have you noticed that alligators are really kind of starting to rebel against human beings lately? In the States, there's been just a rash of stories of alligators just kind of getting a little too vicious with us humans. But I kind of stay away from them. Thankfully, there's not alligators in my neighborhood in New Orleans. You got to go out a little bit into the swamp.
I can tell you this. This is what I have to worry about if I'm out near water in this area. I have to worry literally about beavers attacking. That's it. You think you have it bad with alligators? Try the teeth of a beaver while you're standing waist deep in the water. They'll get you them.
That would not be pleasant. Yeah, that would not be pleasant. And we don't really like, waist deep in water here. That's a bad, yeah, we don't like that either.
Yes, I understand, because those darn beavers, you know what, I would love to get down there and actually see for myself what it is really, really like. The one image I do have of New Orleans was going back to Hurricane Katrina, where, we all saw the devastation on camera. We all saw what had happened. But the reports of police being shot at in helicopters, as they're trying to figure out who to rescue, who not, and here they are taking gunfire from their own citizens in a town of, in a stage of anarchy, really, as everyone was trying to survive.
I'm a New Orleanian, and I actually am from the Ninth Ward, there's a lower Ninth Ward, there's an upper Ninth Ward, but the lower Ninth is where everything got really devastated. And that's where a lot of people were saying that people were shooting at the helicopters. And really, knowing my people, what they were doing is that they were just shooting to get attention where they were, because they were desperate. There were families of people en route that were diabetic, that were starving, that were old, sick, young, vulnerable. And a lot of what people in the media were saying were like people shooting shooting up at their rescuers. That isn't what was happening. That was spin. And again, I'm from here. I wasn't here for the storm, and I'll tell you why. And I always tell people who come to me as a psychic that if I had not evacuated, they shouldn't be coming to me as a psychic. I saw Katrina coming. I left very early in the game, when it was still spinning in the Gulf. So I wasn't actually here, during the storm itself, and they didn't let us back into the city for another it was at least 40 days before they let us back into the city. But again, a lot of the stories that you heard about the violence, that's probably, during Katrina, was probably our least violent time. Again, because we're community, we're, people, we helped each other out. We came together. I do know people who stayed against my, urgings that they leave. I do know people that stayed, and I know the stories of people who are actually here. And it was not as lawless as people want to make out. There was a bar in the French Quarter that stayed open, 24/7, serving warm beer, and it wasn't as violent then, probably our least violent. Now, right, in 1995, there was a lot of killings, but, Katrina itself, it was not the bloodshed. There were other reasons why spirits are very restless for Katrina, but the shooting up at the helicopters, that's not one of them.
Well, let's talk about that, because you bring up a very interesting point in regards to the spirits were restless for Katrina. Explain what happened before that and after that with spirit for you.
The activity really amped up after Katrina. I mean, again, we're always, a very haunted city, but, and as kind of Spinal Tap would say, it turned up to 11, after Katrina, because you had newly departed spirits. You had people who just got washed away. I mean, we keep axes up in our attic, because if the water rises quickly, you got to hatchet your way out the attic, and but a lot of people couldn't do that because the water came up so quick. So, I mean, just people were just gone like that. Households. There were nursing homes. I mean, it got really, it was the people that did pass in Katrina. It was, it was just boom. Nobody was expecting. Everybody survived. Hurricane Betsy was what we thought was the worst that could ever happen to New Orleans, and so there were a lot of people that stayed who thought that it was going to be another Hurricane Betsy, but the water rose up over the roof, and so there was no way that they survived. And it was very, so you had those spirits. You had basically, I think, maybe spirits have their own kind of post-traumatic stress disorder. So you had, this isn't our first hurricane. That wasn't the first time that, people have died in hurricanes here. And then, again, people have died in fires. People have died in plagues. People have died en masse in our city before. And so I think maybe it reawakened them again, or they got a kind of post-traumatic stress disorder. When I first came back into the city, walking into the French Quarter, I could not go, more than 2 blocks into the quarter because I felt like somebody was punching me in my stomach. And, I'm not somebody who has a lot of hostile spirit experiences, but that was a hostile spiritual experience. That was like the spirits in the city just saying, I'm not going to swear, but you can imagine what it is that they were saying to the world for, this happening to us again. And so you had, it took me a long time to be able to go into the quarter. And I mean, that's my stomping ground. So it was very odd to me that I really couldn't, walk deep into the quarter for quite a while. I felt it like, again, something in my solar plexus just going, boom, stay out. I'm from the Ninth Ward, and I felt, I remember getting out of the car the first time after I drove in from the airport from flying in the first time from where I was evacuated to. Opened the car door in my driveway, my house, and I felt still spirits like running, like they were panicked. It was the strangest thing I'd ever experienced. It was like like these just blurs just shooting past me, like that were still running from the lower Ninth Ward to get out of there. and I was bombarded with that. It was just, again, it was just, they were going by me like, shoo, 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 just, they were really trying, they were still in a panic trying to get out of here. So right after Katrina, it was crazy, crazy. I think it has mellowed some to the point where we're just our normal, extraordinarily haunted city. But after Katrina, it was profound.
When the spirits started coming to you, the ones that were lost in Katrina, were you absolutely inundated with messages? Like, that had to be a tough time for you because everybody's probably looking for family members. Everybody's trying to figure out what happened, how or where a relative could be, whether they were alive or deceased. How was it for you personally? As you mentioned, it was tough for you to be around there, but I'm just wondering, were you the next few weeks after, or the next number of months after, just bombarded by spirit in order to try and gain contact with you?
Well, I was, and it's interesting. A lot of them were lost, and so I kind of, for a little bit there, felt like an air traffic controller, because I just was kind of trying to send them like, well, no, they're actually not in, like the cities that got wiped, the parts of the cities that got wiped out. I was like, well, they're not actually in that. Your people aren't in Lakeview. They evacuated. They're somewhere else. I was trying to kind of, because spirits, like our people, my ancestors, my family who have passed away, we kind of still like to cluster together. And so, if somebody passed and somebody's, family had relocated, they were kind of trying to find the spirits that passed were trying to kind of reconnect because they wanted to be with their family members. So I was getting it both on the living, because I am a member of the community and, my medium work, I deal with some heavy stuff. And I've connected to and connected the living to the departed, who were lost in Katrina. I've done that numerous times. But yes, I was inundated with it. It was, they were like, where am I? Because when people pass in that quick a manner, and in that unsettled a fashion, they're a little confused. The spirits are a bit confused for a while.
I want to get to a question from Claudia in the SOR Space Travelers right now. She is asking, Cari, have you ever heard any jazz players and a lot of musicians who have crossed over still playing?
That's interesting because we're getting ready to, the second line for Pete Fountain is this Wednesday. I will go. Pete Fountain was just an amazing member of our, and I actually have read for people that were close to him, and so I'm going to go there to pay my respects, and we do that. Yeah, they do keep playing. Yeah, absolutely, they keep playing. I can go down the line of them. There was another gentleman, very well-known, beloved. He was a drummer in the Treme brass band, a man named Uncle Lionel. And when, Uncle Lionel was a fixture in our lives. Brass bands play at our weddings. They play at our funerals. They are what we dance to when we parade in the street. And his was one of the best funerals. We have a weird thing here in New Orleans where sometimes we prop up the person who has departed and dress them, and they're sitting or standing like they're still alive for the viewing. Like they're not just in the, I know it kind of sounds a little weird, but Uncle Lionel was standing dressed like he would have been dressed living for his viewing. He wasn't lying down in a casket. He was standing like he was alive. And so you go down into some clubs and stuff, and I feel him. There's a place that is one of my favorite, like, lesser-known haunted places in New Orleans, and that's Ernie Cato's Mother-in-Law Lounge. Ernie Cato did the song Mother-in-Law, and I knew Cato. I knew Miss Antoinette, his wife. She's passed now too, and that space was sacred to them. And when I've gone there, I have felt Cato and Miss Antoinette, and Cato's still singing away. He sang up until he died. Uncle Lionel still drumming away. He drummed up until he died. and Pete Fountain, I have no doubt, I mean, we all say that heaven just got a little brighter band, and, we're missing a light here on earth.
What are some of the most haunted places in New Orleans? Is it the French Quarter? Is it the area where Marie Laveau was? Or where was it? Like, where are you finding a lot of really interesting spirit activity?
The Quarter is really the Quarter is the most haunted part of New Orleans, hands down. Again, every place in New Orleans is pretty haunted at this point. Even the suburbs of New Orleans, places like Lakeview and, the Lower Nine and things that are, that are kind of worse suburban areas of. The Lower Nine wasn't really suburban, it's part of New Orleans, but Lakeview was not part of the original grid. There's a lot, we built out from the French Quarter. The French Quarter is the start of the city, and we built out, and, all of these places are rich in history, and even the more modern places like Lakeview, when, got wiped out in Katrina, people died, so even those areas are haunted, and so it's just, the Quarter, I would say, is the most haunted spot. Second to that, I would say, is the American sector. There's a part there. There had been brothels and other things, the goings on there. Storyville area, again, brothels, kind of a lot of shady stuff going on. So that tends to hold. We've got Chalmette Battlefield. I mean, that was, there was a bloodbath that happened there. Even the swamps, you can go 20 minutes to the bayou, and you get out into the bayou, and it's even haunted there because we had pirates out there. So, but I would say the Quarter is, if you were coming to New Orleans and you really wanted to have a haunted experience, that's where I would really set my sights.
There's a lot of hotels that people can stay at that are said to be extremely haunted. One of the ones in researching for tonight that I was very interested in is the Bourbon Orleans. That's a place...
Oh, yeah, the Bourbon Orleans, yeah. Uh-huh.
Hold on. How come you just call that Orleans? How come you just...
because that's what we call that. That's what we call the Bourbon Orleans. It's not New Orleans. We call it the Bourbon Orleans. But if you came down here and you asked about it, if you said Bourbon Orleans, nobody would know what you were talking about. So we have weird things like that, like the word calliope. The calliope plays, it's like kind of like a little organ, pipe organ calliope, and the riverboats play those. But we have a street spelled the exact same way, and it's pronounced Calliope. And so you could be standing on Calliope Street listening to the calliope. So it's weird down here. So, yeah, the Bourbon Orleans.
Okay.
Bourbon Orleans is super awesome, layered with ghosts. I used to read for a GM there who would call me up and he'd be like, Cari, what's going on? They're messing with the televisions. They're messing with all the equipment. There's lots of ghostly activity there. You are not going to be disappointed if you're seeking spirits. There are children, there are nuns, there are pirates, there's all sorts of people around there. There's almost more living, people staying there than there are, more dead people staying there than there are living. And so you're pretty well guaranteed to have an experience there. It had been a free woman of color who had it was a school there where nuns taught, and there were children. It was like an orphanage and stuff where there were children, and she was, I think, one of the first free women of color. So you had that. Then later on, there was something called the Quadroon Balls, where very wealthy, kind of aristocratic Frenchmen would go and pick up a quadroon, which meant you were a quarter African American. Or quarter white. I can't quite remember which part. I think it's quarter white. Yeah, quarter white, quadroon. But they would go to pick out mistresses from the most beautiful Creole, women that we had. And so you have all that stuff going on. And again, we were a pirate kind of rough and tumble town in the 17 and in the 1800s. There was a lot of stuff going on. So you've got those right down in that area.
When you stay at one of the, when you
know, a lot of people.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, kids are quite often the thing that people who are staying at the Bourbon Orleans say that they experience. They hear children running down the hallway and then open the door and there's no children there.
Now, that's because it was a former orphanage, am I correct?
Yes, by one of the first free women of color.
Wow. See, I had a little girl in a house that a girl spirit. She was probably 2-3 years old, and I actually saw her one day, and my ex-wife, we call her ex-SOR around here, Mrs. Ex-SOR around here, but she saw her as well. I don't think there's anything scarier or sad than seeing children in spirit form. You know, I mean, we all expect adults, you know, whether it doesn't matter what age, because we all choose our own path. But when it comes to children, that has to be hard to be able to hear, you know, children crying or children playing and there's nobody there.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's interesting about most children's spirits, through my experience, is that most of them really still are playing. You know, there's of all the spirit forms that you're going to find, children are the ones that are the more joyful. Perhaps they know that there is not a big, you know, that the other side is pretty awesome. I personally think the other side, from my experience of what I have glimpsed from what spirits that I've connected to have told me, is pretty awesome. You know, so who's to actually say, even though a child, you know, we're looking at as though they're missing out on their life. What if over there is even better than here? You know, then there's a way of looking at that where, you know, the sooner they got there, the better. You know, the other world could be better than this one. So, you know, I when I tap into them, I don't get a lot of sorrow. I don't get crying. I rarely get that. The times that I get crying with children have all been residual experiences and have not been what I consider actively present haunting.
New Orleans also has a very large contingent of pirates back in the day. It was a pirate town. Yep. Why did the pirates sail into New Orleans? And how many are still around?
Well, you know, we're lawless. We're kind of lawless. We were French. We were Spanish. We've been American. You know, you never knew, you know, who. We've always been a little shady. I mean, that's just, we were built kind of in a shady way. You know, our founders were a little shady. There's always been something a little, I mean, you hear about Louisiana politics and, you know, New Orleans was kind of built on that. And so I feel that there was always a little bit of laissez-faire here, and people still come here to lose their identities. I mean, you can hide out in New Orleans still to this day. If you really wanted to get away from somewhere, you could kind of come to New Orleans and disappear into the fabric here. So it's not a surprise that, and the waterways are very, you know, you can hide out. Again, in the bayou, you can go into that bayou and people aren't going to find you. You can bury things out in that bayou that nobody is ever going to find. You can bury people, you can bury treasure, you know, and so the pirates, you know, they were just kind of roaming the sea. There was a lot of, you know, you had sugar in the islands that was getting brought back to this sugar and tobacco. It, you know, was coming and traveling. I mean, it wasn't just gold that people were going after. You know, that was, you know, a lot that was like Spaniards because they had gotten all that gold from South America. That was their thing. But, you know, sugar was a big commodity back then. And so pirates would rob, you know, and take over ships that had all sorts of, things. So it was just a good place to go hide them. It was a good place we've always been a trading town. We're a port city. So there's always been like barter trade going on, stuff, import, export. And you can fence a lot of goods here, and other people look the other way. So I think that is one of the reasons that there were a lot of pirates coming here. It's a port town. And they were able to stay here and live a bit undercover. Jean Lafitte, actually one of our most famous pirates, advised people in wars and in fighting battles and in strategy. He was included in, they had, a blacksmith shop that served as what would be the front of their operation. So you could have like a business that looked like, the blacksmith shop, but really in the back you were selling contraband. And so they were able to blend in more in society, perhaps, than they would have been able to other places.
Question from Claudia in the SOR Space Travelers chat room. Have any of these spirits, pirate or not, ever told you or others where hidden treasures are actually buried?
Now, this is the great thing. This is one of my favorite stories about pirate ghosts in New Orleans, and I just did a news story about it last year. There is an area in Jean Lafitte Park that is in the bayou that I have felt is extremely haunted. And there is a big, you're talking about alligators, there is an old alligator there, like big alligator. And this alligator, whenever I'm around there, it like really just patrols this particular area. And I mean, you're really going to be hard pressed to be able to get there to see if treasure is there, because that alligator is not going to let you go there. And I'm talking old, big, again, like prehistoric looking thing. And every time that I've gone there, and I've talked to the woman that owns the property now, and there's Indians and pirates out there. Can they tell me where the buried treasure is? Probably, they haven't yet, or I might not be talking to y'all. I might be, off taking that treasure my own self. But the one that really sticks with me, again, is the one that's out in Jean Lafitte that is, I feel, being protected by a spirit of a pirate residing now in an alligator. I mean, literally, you look over to that area and boom, up comes the alligator and it just patrols it. I'm not going to go over there. I'm not playing with no gator that's trying to keep me out. I mean, it's awesome from a paranormal standpoint, but I'm not the one that's going to go venture over there and check it out and see if there really is gold there. But that's what I've felt. That's what I have seen. And the alligator that's patrolling it and kind of standing guard over it just validated my, feelings. So
why hasn't
if you're braver than me, go look for it. I'm not going.
So why hasn't anybody with, a hunter or somebody like that gone into that area? And if the alligator comes around...
Well, people have found treasure there. People have already found treasure. The Cajuns aren't stupid. Cajuns know those swamps very well. And so you go in, most of the treasure that would have been out there has long been pillaged, because we're talking about a very long time ago. The Cajuns that are out there that are in the bayou, they've been up and down and through those swamps so much that you are, going to be lucky if you find anything that is not natural. So, stuck there because they're resourceful. So there are stories about families that are wealthy still to this day, where it's gone through the family, and you're like, well, how did they get that money? And the tales will be that, well, they get that money, the family got wealthy because they found treasure out in the bayou. So, I think what was there has already been, absconded with. So I think that's the reason. I think the hunters and if they're not, hunters, the Cajuns, they already got it.
We only have
There's fortunes here based on that.
We only have about 30 seconds here before we're going to hop out for our first break of the night. It must be incredible for you to be in this field in the heartland of the most haunted city in the United States. How fun is that for you?
I consider myself the luckiest person in the world.
Excellent. And on that note, we're going to be right back. Cari Roy is our guest. We're talking New Orleans Paranormal tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness. You can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Space Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. If you're listening in on Revolution Radio, the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, or the SOR Space Travelers, thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Monday night, early Tuesday morning. Tomorrow night on the show, we head to Pennsylvania, Kecksburg to be exact. John Ventry will be our guest as we talk about the historic Kecksburg UFO incident back in the 60s. Remember, if you are a listener of Revolution Radio and tuning in, thank you so much, because we are on Studio B right now, live. You can donate right now. Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Take the time to keep the station alive today. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can check out the SOR Spacewire by Eric Markham. You can also read our latest blogs. They get posted every Monday. Check out the Bumblefoot banner, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, the official music of Spaced Out Radio. And of course, take the time to join the SOR Space Travelers Club. It works out to $5 a month. With that, you get your name put into monthly prize draws, access to private group interviews, and so much more. Tonight we are talking with Cari Roy. She is a world-famous psychic medium out of New Orleans, and we are talking about haunted New Orleans tonight. Welcome back, Cari.
Oh, hey, glad to be back. It's right sleepy time down south here.
I hear you. Does it ever sleep down there? Doesn't it just keep going?
No, actually it doesn't. No, but we just have a sleepy sense all the time. We just live in a kind of another state of consciousness down here.
Being a paranormal investigator as well, do you find that the spirits are very active down there in wanting to chat and participate with investigation?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, we've got some. Oh, yeah, we got some shameless spirits. I mean, they'll just come out, at the snap of the finger. They like it. Maybe that's one of the reasons that they keep doing it, is because they keep getting a lot of attention. But yes, we have a tremendous, like I said, I mean, you really can't go wrong. If you want to have a paranormal experience, New Orleans is the place to go. I mean, you got to work hard at not having a paranormal experience here.
Is it just downright accepted, or are there people who have actually left town because they couldn't handle the hauntings anymore?
There are people who have left town because they couldn't handle the energy. Whether they've specified it as hauntings or not, not to me personally. But I have had, I've had people actually that were very close to me that could not take the heavier energy that is here. That if you're extremely sensitive to, you could feel. I think we all have different perceptions of what heavy is, and so it's not that way to me. I mean, I feel great comfort. I mean, there is a heaviness in what it is that I do professionally, but I don't feel like it's going to drive me out of my city. But for some people, I have heard them say that, I just can't take it anymore. It's too much for me. It's too intense here. So there's something going on. There's a different level.
Couple questions from our chat room tonight. This one from Claudia. She's always very active and asks some pointed questions. And this is what we like to do because we like to keep our audience participating in this show as well. She is asking, well, I just asked you the question, pardon me, about a lot of people who moved out of New Orleans because of the hauntings. So let me get to Joe's question then. And he is asking about the legend of Boggy Creek, Honey Island Swamp Monster, Boogers, Southern Bigfoot. Have you ever run across any of their spirits?
No. I'm actually a New Orleans girl, and there are, there are people that have camps out in the bayou. I mean, you might go out into the bayou sometimes, but I don't spend a lot of time in the bayou. I really don't. I'm a city girl. I'm a New Orleans girl. I stay inside. So that area that you're asking about is not really my area of expertise. Again, the times that I've been out into the bayou, I feel more the spirits. Maybe it's just more what it is that I'm attuned to. And so I couldn't really answer that question. Do I think that there are things that are out there in that swamp that are, again, prehistoric? Yes. Odd, yes, I'm sure there are. I mean, we got our own werewolves down here, the Lougarou, and they like to run down in the bayou too. And so, there's a lot of stuff, and the Lougarou is like a werewolf, so it's a big hairy thing. So, I don't know of running into any one of them personally, thankfully, because I would probably run very quickly away, and that's hard to do in the bayou because it's swampy. But so I can't really answer that question for you.
Oh, that's all right.
Thank you for asking.
Shar has a question in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. She is asking, Cari, do you know why children haven't crossed over, and do you help them cross? I think that there is a time perception difference between what we as the living are experiencing and what the dead are experiencing. It could be minutes, and I've tapped into spirits and beings and gotten that it feels like minutes to them. Our whole experience, the new phenomenon that I'm getting lately is I really connected with this idea of people saying that when they're passing, their lives flash before their eyes. And I think the reason that happens is that we are moving into a different time perception when we pass from the living into the dead. And so for children, I'm not sure that they're not just, again, in the middle of play and then, boom, they still have that. They wake up for a second and they're like, hey, let's play. I don't think that. I also feel that the other time where I will feel that there are conscious children hauntings is in dealing with parents.
of children who have died. And I do a lot of that. There's a great group called Compassionate Friends that I've been fortunate to read for a lot of people involved in that, whose children have passed. And oftentimes the children are hanging around because they're comforting their parents. So I've experienced different kinds of hauntings with children. Do I clear them? I have done when it felt like it was the thing to do, when I felt like they were staying to comfort their parents and they were fully aware and participatory in the fact that they were staying for that reason. I'm not going to cross them because, again, I feel their perception of time is very different. So while you and a lot of people have a maternal feeling towards children, spirits who have passed, the same way that they would feel that maternal feeling while they were living, our instinct is to want to go and rescue that spirit, rescue that child. I also feel that the soul is timeless. And so the time that someone passed is not freezing the level of the soul that they're at. So again, I feel that there are children's spirits who are, we could learn a lot from them because they're like big, huge, giant angel spirit kind of things. And they, hang around their parents to give them comfort. So for those, absolutely not. I wouldn't clear them. I always check with anything before I clear it. I don't think that we should just go through and, be clearing every space that is occupied by spirits, because some of them have better reasons for being there than we know of. So, it's a case-by-case basis. I think that too.
Is there a favorite area that you like to investigate? And even though you're a medium, do you choose to use technology like ghost hunting gear, or do you prefer to use your own senses?
I'm really, really good at what it is that I do. This is what I say to people who talk about, paranormal equipment. I am paranormal equipment. I am a fine-tuned psychic medium who can go in there and detect spirit activity with greater clarity than any single device has yet. We get a lot from EVPs, we get a lot from cameras, we get a lot from, other stuff. But when you've got a good psychic in your team, and you really, if it's a psychic that you really, a medium that you really feel good about in your paranormal team, pay attention to that instrument, because that is an instrument too. I know magnetometers. It's my industry, so I know all about it, but I'm not a cameraman. I'm not a scientist. I like scientists, but I'm not one. So that's not, again, my area of expertise. I trust people who are good with equipment. I trust people who are good with recording things. When I walk into a space, my attention would be wasted if you handed me a magnetometer, because I'm going to get more just by walking into the direction that I'm feeling something. So it's a different kind of experience. I find, do I think that scientific, I think it's the most important thing if we're going to start making breakthroughs here with, we have to have the research, we have to have the data. So I think it's essential to have those things in there, to have those be as important as the psychic medium. But again, I think that psychic mediums are a piece of equipment too.
How often are you out investigating? And with so many different spirits there, have you felt like you've only grabbed or talked with a
surface?
Yeah, scratch the surface of it?
Yeah, scratch the surface. Well, yeah. The thing is that I am a professional psychic medium. I do that. That's my gig. I read people is my primary gig. And a lot of that work is medium work. So I'm talking to spirits virtually. There'll be a day, there are many days that I go into the office and I'm like, okay, this is death day, because every single person that I'm talking to is medium reading, and it's heavy, and I'm talking about people who have died, and I'm connecting with people who have died. So in that respect, I'm doing like paranormal investigations all day long. They're not of properties. They're just in my office with a person, sitting across from me. But I was just doing one the other day where things were moving, where there's a lot of physical evidence of paranormal activity with, a very wonderful woman in the city's fabulous historic home. Amazing. I was there just the other day. So, every day of my life, I'm kind of doing some kind of paranormal investigation, whether it's, as a medium and seeing clients, or whether it's going to properties here in New Orleans. I've been just, when it arises, when it comes, when people want a psychic, when they come here, if they're a team and they want a, psychic to go through properties, I will go through properties with them. I get called, I did a lot of the restaurants and the hotels in New Orleans, did paranormal investigations there. So, I try to keep with it every day.
Question from Gloria in the SOR Space Travelers. Have you ever been to the house that burned with all the slaves in it, the Lalaurie house? What feelings did you feel there, if you had?
The Lalaurie house. Now, I would, if I'm interested in if you are interested in the Lalaurie house, I would get the book by Carolyn Morrow Long. Well, there's a book that's great, and it really is the definitive about the whole place. I know the realtor that just recently sold the Lalaurie house. The Lalaurie house changes hands, although a lot of the people that live there do not feel paranormal experiences. I have a lot of feelings about the Lalaurie house. I think that a great deal of it has been exaggerated over the years to we were talking just before about science and, equipment and stuff like that, and logic is part of that. And there's parts of the very exaggerated story about Madame Lalaurie that just doesn't, if you look at it and examine it with just a little reason and logic, doesn't make sense. They have her vivisecting slaves and doing crazy wild experiments on them and stuff, and really, if you know New Orleans architecture and you know the time that it happened, there would have been so much screaming and howling, and there would be smells, and it would never have continued as long as it has. So I think a lot of the story has been exaggerated. Do I think she was really terrible to her slaves? Yes. Do I think that she was rageful? Yes. I think that she was probably, I think she was just a rageful, maybe she was a little sociopathic. But the real gruesomeness of it, I think, is told because it just is it sounds like a much more flamboyant story. But I think she was just a woman, people didn't treat slaves well. That's not what the South was really known for. So, there were horrific things that were done to slaves all throughout the South. You can go to some of our plantations, to the slave houses in the back, and you can feel things that will make Madame Laurie's house feel like a cakewalk, So there's a lot of, I think, more gruesome stuff than Madame Laurie. There is stuff there, but again, I've known, that it has been occupied a great deal, and people that have lived there have not picked up or had experiences as you would imagine if they were living in something like the Amityville house.
I do have to squeeze this in because I forgot to at the top of the hour. Bill Cardwell has set the SOR Space Travelers password for tonight. For you members out there, the password is necromancy. Necromancy is your password tonight, so make sure you use it quite wisely, Space Travelers. You know what it's for. Sorry about that. I had to get that in. Eric is wondering, Cari.
Necromancy. Wow.
Yes,
yeah.
he comes up with a good one every night. Sometimes I can't even pronounce it, and I'm pretty good with vocabulary, apparently, besides saying New Orleans and Louisiana, which I had to get a
You're doing it great now.
Thank you. Eric is wondering in the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook, As a medium, what kind of protection do you use to prevent being overwhelmed or having attachments follow you home?
None.
Wow.
None.
You're brave.
None. Again, I've got my own little philosophies about spirit and what, I let things pass through me. I've been doing this a long time. I probably have built-in armor that I'm not even aware of because I've been using it for such a long time. So I think that I have blocks and stuff like that probably would prevent something from wanting to attach to me. But spirits require attention. Attachments require attention. The greatest way to get rid of attachment is to ignore it. If there's no relationship going on, if there's no connection that you're allowing yourself to make, just ignore it. And that is my first line of defense that I suggest to everybody. If you do feel like you got something attached to you, don't react, don't do anything. Just stay neutral, because the attachment is requiring your attention, your energy, your focus. It's trying to kind of make you pay attention to it when you've got a real world that you're living in that you need to be paying attention to. So that's the first line of defense. I really honestly do not do anything. I don't. Again, at this stage of the game, spirits pass through me. I know how to use my senses, and I know how to direct them so that it's not, I'm not personalizing my experience with that being. It's a conversation just like you would have with another person. And then you shake hands and you walk away. I'm not taking any of that energy with me. That's not my energy to take. So I guess maybe my philosophy about it and the way that I use my abilities, it's something that I kind of nipped in the bud. So there are times and there's things that I do for my own self because I connect so deeply with people and spirits. Even though it, is something that I don't own, I wear it as a loose garment. Again, it passes through me. And what I do is I have rituals that I do just to clear myself. I'm a big saltwater person. I'm a big visualization person, that there are things that I can do just to keep my own instrument well tuned. And I do it for that reason. I don't do it when I'm going and dealing with things individually.
New Orleans is known for a lot of black magic and the whole voodoo side. How prevalent is that around the state of Louisiana?
Well, black magic and voodoo do not belong in the same sentence because they're really two different things. Voodoo is a religion that was started by disenfranchised people who had to kind of really have a justice system and a healing system because they were not part of society, so they had to kind of create it within their own society. And so voodoo really is a system of healing and justice and, goodwill, more than it is the curses and all the rest of the stuff that it gets portrayed as. It really is a vital religion. I know voodoo. I was actually just earlier this evening, 2 wonderful voodoo priestesses here. There is Kalinda Laveau. Kalinda Laveau is a wonderful voodoo priestess. She's young. You need to look out for her because she's powerful. She's going to grow into it, and she already is very, very powerful. Little voodoo queen there. She's wonderful. She's a powerful young woman. But she's beautiful. She's strong. She's powerful. She's super. And then Mama Jamila is another wonderful voodoo priestess that we have here. And this is a religion. They're not out there throwing curses on people. They're there, dancing and getting infused with voodoo gods and, raising power for good rather than raising power for evil. Again, voodoo is something that was brought over as a religion from, it's an African religion that in different areas where there were slaves who were coming there, they brought it and mixed with whatever the religion. Here in New Orleans, it's Catholicism. Voodoo is very, very wrapped up with the saints. To every voodoo god, there's a corresponding Catholic saint. And so it's something I think we're all very knowledgeable about. It is part of our culture. It's something that is an intrinsic part of many cultures. But it's more, I would keep voodoo on its own and not mix it with black magic.
Well, let's talk about the black magic for a second. Is this something that is hidden, that is underground, or is it in the forefront with every other type of religion or practice out there? There isn't in New Orleans, honestly. There is very little black magic going on. You'd think, we got other stuff, but that's not really one of our things. Just looking at it as a holistic view of belief system, sure, black magic is out there with every other belief system, but it's not a very prevalent one here in New Orleans. For all of the other stuff, it's like there's not as much cursing around. We don't, New Orleans is not as passive aggressive as many belief systems. Voodoo is, when you think of it as, putting curses on stuff on people. Here in New Orleans, we'll just walk up to you and curse you. We're not going to do it behind your back. So it's not as many curses as you would associate it with. There's more healing, dancing, celebrating to the gods. It's not as, I would say, a dark belief system, maybe. But black magic, I just don't find a lot of it here. I'm sure there are. We've got, we're the city of the dead. We've got cemeteries everywhere. I'm sure that it's great ritual space for those in the dark arts, but it's not something that I come into contact with very much. Question from Claudia in the Spaced Out Radio SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. Have you ever entered through the veil and been on the other side witnessing what the spirit wanted you to see?
Yes. My first experiences with that were when I was young, and I would have dreams that would open up into being not a dream. It would be like part of my brain opened up and it became another world, and I was conscious of myself dreaming. I could see a dream going on, but I would enter into what was like a different world, where I would meet with people who had departed, and I don't even know what they were telling me, but it was like heavy stuff. I know it was, kind of like Secrets of the Ages kind of material, and I would wake up and I would know what happened. I would know that I was in a dream, and then when that person that was in another state that wasn't a dream, and I finished talking, I would go back into the dream, and when I would wake up, I knew it happened, but I couldn't grasp what the messages were. I think that as a medium, I'm stepping beyond the veil every day that I connect with clients. Again, I have my own ideas about what the other side is like. I connect with it every day. It's not nearly as dark and scary as people think. I actually think it's pretty awesome. And that's what spirits show me most of the time. I have a number of things that pretty much most spirits let me know as soon as I connect with them, that they're happy for people like us that are still here to know. I get a lot of information stepping through the veil. There's a part of me that does that in every medium reading that I ever do.
James is asking in the SOR Space Travelers, have you ever been in contact with black juju or may have seen it?
Yes. I've come up on some stuff in my life that has been unpleasant. I sound pretty Pollyanna about what it is that I do, but, you know, I've been doing it for a long time, and I have come up with some stuff that's like, yeah, that's some evil stuff there. And I've known people who were just dark souls, and I've, you know, in my own life been affected by, you know, the negative thoughts of others, which is what I think really black juju is. It's concentrated effort thoughts of negativity and, you know, chaos and destruction from one being to another. So, yeah, I have. I don't like it. It's hard to get rid of. You can get rid of it, but it's, you know, who's got time for that stuff, you know? It's, you know, it's really, it's like dark juju is like the flat tire of the spiritual world. You know, it's a pain in the you-know-what.
I found it very intriguing when you said that Voodoo and Catholicism really play hand in hand with each other in Louisiana. And I'm wondering if you can get into that a little bit, because I think for a lot of people out there, they may be scratching their heads a little bit trying to figure out how the two coincide.
Well, you had an enslaved community, right? You had Africans who were brought here who practiced Yoruba and other African, I believe, if I'm right with my history, it's West African belief, you know, and religions. And they came here and they were enslaved. And they were enslaved in New Orleans by, you know, French Catholics and, you know, other, you know, Spaniards and other people who were really, really Catholic. And so as are most, you know, most religions, the dominant religion steps on the on the native religion and kind of absorbs it. There would be people that would say Catholicism is, you know, just a belief system that kind of steps on a pantheistic belief system, and that's why all the saints are there, because it's satisfying our, you know, desire for pantheistic religious expression. But so here you have Voodoo, which has a lot of gods, which, you know, the Voodoo is kind of, Voodoo itself is like a combination of African religion and Catholicism. That's what Voodoo is. It's not really necessarily Voodoo is Voodoo and connected with Catholicism. Voodoo is like Catholicism and Yoruba, you know, African religions. That's the kind of combination with that. And so you had slaves that wanted to celebrate their own, you know, religious beliefs. And there was Catholicism, which, again, was pantheistic in a way by having a whole bunch of different saints. So every Voodoo god has a corresponding Catholic saint. So does every Santeria. Santeria is just another, you know, the slave culture, the culture of the people who were being enslaved, kind of blending with Catholicism and Santeria. Every Santeria god and goddess has a corresponding Catholic saint too. So you find that in a lot of the things that we, you know, happened when two cultures meshed. And so I think also that the people who were practicing the African religion had to disguise that practice in a way that was acceptable to the people that were enslaving them. And so, you know, there was a certain, you know, we're accepting your saints, but we're not giving up our gods. And so that was really, I think, a way for them to continue to practice their own religion in a way that was acceptable to their masters at the time.
How does Marie Laveau play into all of this?
Marie Laveau is the most powerful known figure in Voodoo, really, I mean, across the world. You think of Voodoo, you think of Marie Laveau. Fascinating woman, free woman of color, beautiful, smart. She really had, you know, she had the world by the tail. And she was a hairdresser. for very affluent women. And so what happens when you kind of are a hairdresser? What do people do? They tell you everything, you know. So she knew a lot about the high society. And here she is, a free woman of color, with a lot of information about the high society. And she starts to kind of, you know, take her voodoo belief system and share it with them. And so, you know, she had a very strong gift of prophecy. You know, she would read for these women. People would come and get readings from her. I mean, she was a free woman of color who probably interacted more with the wealthy set in New Orleans than has ever happened and probably ever will happen. She had throngs of, people worshipped her, black, white, anybody, they worshipped her. She led rituals up on Bayou St. John. She was powerful, powerful, powerful. And there's two Marie Laveaus, because there was Marie Laveau, and then when Marie Laveau passed, she had a daughter that looked just like her. And it was thought for a long time that Marie Laveau just lived, she was 150 and she looked fabulous. But it was actually Marie Laveau and then Marie Laveau too. And they both, again, they knew how to, those rituals, those, St. John's Eve rituals, Bayou St. John, those were powerful things thousands of people went to. Just primal. And she just, she was the most powerful woman of color in New Orleans.
And there are still people to this day who leave presents at her tomb in the cemetery where she is. And there is apparently rumors and folklore out there that if you raid the presents that are left or the money or the gifts that are left, that she will come and haunt you or something along those lines, or get you back?
Well, that's a low thing to do, really. That's really low, stealing something from somebody, in front of somebody's, final resting place. You don't want to go stealing any tomb things. Anybody that does that is kind of just setting themselves up for a little bad karma, right? You ought to leave stuff like that alone. So I would say you curse yourself by doing that. It definitely was not a smart thing to do. But people have a lot of lures about the tomb of Marie Laveau. And, I'm funny, man. I love my city. I love my history. I don't really like people writing on the tombstones of my dead. Most of us New Orleans, we don't really particularly like when people start crossing X's on Marie Laveau's tomb. It's really defacing what we think of as being a holy place. So a lot of people come to New Orleans and think that they're going to get, that Marie Laveau is not going to give you favor, by marking on her tomb. Are you going to give somebody favor who's marking on your tomb? It's just, you don't deface property like that. That's her sacred space. You could knock on the tomb. You could do whatever you want, but don't go writing on her tomb. Somebody painted it like latex pink. Crazy. It was a big, just a shocker in New Orleans. We were like, how could somebody do that to Marie Laveau? Like, we knew right away, like, that's a lot worse than stealing the stuff that's in front of, you go painting her latex pink, that's some bad karma going to go with that person. That's worse than anything.
But people still leave rum, they still leave incense burning, they leave presents, they leave financial donations. Who does that all go to?
It goes to, people got to clean their, we're funny about cleaning our tombs and keeping our cemeteries clean. On All Saints Day, we have, en masse families going, and we just take care of. We're the kind of city where you go swap out the flowers at your family's tombstone. So people will just clear that space. It just, when things sit there long enough, they just get cleared away. They're not going, they're not getting absorbed into the earth or something spectacular. The tomb isn't opening up and some hands coming out and snatching them and bringing them in.
What's the difference between voodoo and hoodoo?
One is more countrified, one is more citified. That's the definition that I know about it. Hoodoo is more countrified and voodoo is more citified. But that's about the only difference that I know. I am not a practitioner of voodoo. I know practitioners of voodoo. I'm funny about cultural appropriation, and if you look at me, I'm blonde, light-eyed, very, very fair, and I don't consider myself a voodoo priestess, and I'm funny about, cultural appropriations like that. But I do know voodoo priestess who would be probably able to answer that question better in practice. But I know a lot about it. I'm from New Orleans, and, it's a big part of our culture, but I don't practice hoodoo or practice voodoo. So that would be something I might actually refer and ask a practitioner.
Back to Marie Laveau for a minute. Why do you think years after her death, decades after her death, that she is still as popular today as she was back then?
Again, she was such a powerful, powerful presence. She could sway, thousands. Here she is, again, a free woman of color, which, granted you power, but not absolute power. And she was able to get her, she knew everybody, she knew where all of the skeletons were buried. She was so up into the lives of what would be the wealthiest, most powerful people in New Orleans. That doesn't happen even still to this day, So she was, she was beautiful. And it's magic, man. Maybe she did some really good voodoo on her own legacy and made sure that she was going to be, remembered ever on. That's what I would say, probably. Maybe that's it. Maybe Marie Laveau put a spell out that would make all of us just adore her forever.
Do you think that she is still practicing from beyond the grave?
I think that she's probably got it down to a science by now. So there was just a little humor there about practicing. But no, do I think she's still practicing from the grave? No, but I think that the power that she channeled and brought forth from, other parts into this world is still available.
Because there's a lot of stories out there. Maybe they're myths, maybe it's just folklore, that if you, like you mentioned, tarnish her crypt or something along those lines, that she will still put curses or voodoo curses on disrespectful people. Do you think that that is still possible?
I'm not so sure that that's the gig that she's still doing now. She did that for a long time on Earth. So I think though that the whatever, she is, Marie Laveau is more than just a ghost. Marie Laveau is like a goddess energy. She is powerful, powerful, powerful. And, I feel that, again, when somebody taps into that, they're unleashing something that is, it's not like she is being ever vigilant and looking at every person that steals the pound cake or something that's in front of her, her tomb. But, I think that when you do that, it's like going into the pyramid. It's like you're opening, and you're going to get the mummy, the pharaoh's curse is going to come out on you. Is that the pharaoh, or is that the build-up of the energy of the power of the pharaoh, So it's a semantics question. I don't, again, think that she's up there, casting spells on people. But I think that people that are screwing with that energy really, they're unleashing their own little hell.
Do you believe that she may haunt her former residence?
Well, there's, again, why, this was her territory. Why wouldn't she still come through it? I mean, not only are, she's there. Marie Laveau hauntings are numerous. There are people that say that they see her in the cemetery. Why wouldn't you? I mean, why, again, she had it pretty good here. Why wouldn't she want to revisit it from time to time?
It just seems like everybody wants to stay around New Orleans. Like nobody wants to go to the light. I hate to put it that way, but that's almost the way it seems.
Well, there's a funny thing that they say about us New Orleanians, is that we leave and we always come back. It's rare that a New Orleanian is going to move someplace else and stay there forever. I mean, we always come back. I've left the city at, times in my life, and we always come back. And so I think that's just something that goes along with being a New Orleanian.
I got a couple more questions for you from the Spaced Out Radio audience here. This one coming from Claudia. Have you ever seen spirits dancing together of all races, like a circle dance in New Orleans?
That's interesting. No, I have not. I see real people doing that all the time. I mean, I'm going to Pete Fountain's funeral, honey. It's going to be, all races dancing together. We're doing that in the living. Have I seen people doing it in most layers that I know? They're not. It's sometimes spirits are kind of able to see other spirits and connect with other spirits that have been in other dimensions or have died other ways. But, it's not necessarily, I think that spirits, especially in New Orleans, are like layered rather than joined. They're all occupying the same space, but I'm not so sure all of them are aware of each other. But the living, we dance together like that all the time.
Gloria has a question in the SOR Space Travelers. Is there any proof that any of Marie Laveau's spells worked, or is it just part of the lore?
Well, again, we're still talking about her, right? So, I mean, something worked. She was more powerful. She was pretty powerful if we're still talking about her so many years later. I mean, spells work, or people wouldn't do them. Why they work and how they work, there's a lot of, different answers about that. But I'm sure her spells work. Of course they work. She wouldn't have gotten so powerful if she was peddling garbage, There had to be results, or she wouldn't have gotten as famous as she was.
All right, continuing on here. Have you ever had communication with any famous spirits, either from Hollywood or just New Orleans legends that have passed onward, and what have they told you why they're sticking around? Yes, I have. I've channeled a lot of interesting spirits. This is going to sound completely crazy, and probably half of you will not know who this is, but I channeled a old blues. She became a very comedic actress, but she had been a blues singer, and her name was Moms Mabley. And that was one of the funniest and strangest famous people that I ever connected with. It was really an amazing experience. Just because when you connect with people, you really feel their energy, and she was just amazing, and it was very obscure, and she was famous. And, she just really told me, even though later on she became more famous as this comic figure when she was younger and she had been a blues singer, she just wanted me to know that, if you've got the blues, if you're having the blues, if you're in the blues, just live the blues, just be it, embrace it.
is something now that everybody says lean into experiences. Mom's Mabley was telling me a long time ago to like lean into the blues in life, and that it, you know, it would help you pass through them more quickly. So that was a great thing. New Orleans, I mean, again, Ernie Cato at the Mother-in-Law Lounge. I mean, I connect with Cato all the time. He was a great spirit, and his energy is definitely there. And I mean, most of the time they're having a good time. You know, you get your spirits who are restless, irritable, and discontent. But a lot of them are really having a good time here. So, that's when I'm connecting to famous spirits. Oh, I connected to Michael Jackson once. Here's probably, that's got to be the most, how could I have forgotten that? That's got to be the most, like, famous spirit that I ever connected with. And what he told me was so tragic, because we talked about when he died, you know, and how tragic his death was. And he actually, what he said to me was that he had died, that he, Michael Jackson, the spirit of Michael Jackson, had died a lot earlier than the physical body did. So that was kind of sad. That was a really sad experience. And probably that, you know, yeah, that's hard to top.
Everyone wants to know here about what your scariest or freakiest wild story is in Hauntings from New Orleans.
You know, I'm going to go back to Katrina. I'm going to go back to the experience that I had when I first stepped out of my car, my rental car, to come back and check out my property. And that was the freakiest thing that's ever happened to me. I was standing in one, I was standing, occupying my dimension as a living person. And these things were flashing by me so fast, like running, that they were blurs of people. If you've ever seen in film, sometimes where they'll blur somebody, have you ever seen that? When,
yes.
It's somebody moving so fast that they're like blurred. Well, there was like hundreds of those going by me, just like, and that's the freakiest thing that ever happened to me, because I'd never had something that, you know, that extraordinary. I mean, it was just, I don't know, it was something that was of a volume of dead people that I can't really describe to you.
It's amazing how the stories can just continue to get freaky. I mean, that's the way it really keeps coming at you, because you never know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. Next thing you know, you could end up like me, have an alien at your window while you're broadcasting a radio show.
Yeah, yay. I think that we have aliens in the bottom of Lake Pontchartrain. I really do, and I'm not alone in thinking that. I think there's alien ships in the bottom of Lake Pontchartrain.
Oh, that's interesting. We'll have to hit you up on that later. I got time for one more quick question. We only have about 2 minutes left with you tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Bill Cardwell, who set the password of necromancy earlier, is asking, what is the best way for someone visiting New Orleans to get the best spirit experience?
Keep an open mind, you know, open yourself. Go walking late at night around St. Louis Cathedral, walk in the alleys, walk in Pirates Alley, you know, walk around Jackson Square, take a riverboat ride, and realize that, you know, the area down by the river was where, again, there were just bars and brothels and, you know, a lot of rough and tumble experiences. Go to hotels. You know, there's a lot of information about haunted hotels on, you know, in New Orleans. Go to Jean Lafitte's blacksmith shop and sit in the back of it, like in the kind of early part of the day, like maybe 11 o'clock when it's not filled with people drinking. Go into the back part of Jean Lafitte's blacksmith shop and sit there and see if you don't have an experience. just there are so many ways to do so, but, be open to it because it's here. I think we have it so much because we're, as New Orleanians, we're open to it. Again, there are people. So when you come down here, consider, the spirits here, your people, and they'll certainly come and make communications with you.
Cari Roy, I want to say thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio. What a privilege it is to chat with you about New Orleans. And you know what? Now I want to go down there. I can honestly say that. I want to go down there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love the city so much. I can't say enough wonderful things about it. And so, my pleasure.
You take care, and we will talk to you very soon.
Great. Thanks so much. Night.
Good night. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers from the.
Thank you so much, Marie or Cari. I really appreciate it.
Marie.
Hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road. Right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with the UFO Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Spaced Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us tonight as we run through hour number 3 here on the mighty SOR. We want to thank Cari Roy for being on for the first 2 hours. New Orleans Psychic and ParanormalNewOrleans.com are her websites. And now we are joined by Eric Squared. Eric Markham from the SOR Space Travelers, as well as the SOR Spacewire. He is our resident news director. And Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. We're talking paranormal tonight. Gentlemen, good to have you with us. How are you?
Oh, it's always outstanding to be here.
Are you with us there, Markham?
Yeah.
All right. He may be busy because he works in a medical field. So all of a sudden he may be trying to figure out how to get his microphone working. There we go.
You got it?
Barely. Well, you know what we're going to do because this is live radio, Eric? I'm going to call you back on your landline because this just is not working for me, and I have the controls. I have the conch. Maybe it's your cat that's causing things. So we'll hook up with you here on a landline here momentarily, everyone, as we are joined by Eric Cooper of Forest Moon Paranormal. You may hear a little bit of ringing coming into the phone lines here, but that's just the way it is. You know, sometimes live radio doesn't work the way you want it to, but you have to adapt and adjust and just be part of the game. So we're going to bring Eric back in here on Spaced Out Radio. That's Eric Markham.
Hello.
There he is. How are you, my friend?
There you are.
Ah, doing good.
We have,
but you know, Dave.
Yeah, go
that's
ahead.
That's what makes live radio the best, because it's unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen, and it's just awesome.
Well, you know, we do our best. Sometimes we struggle. Sometimes we don't. We do have to start off with giving Bill Cardwell his nightly password, because he sets it for you SOR space travelers. It is Necromancy tonight. Necromancy is the password. Thank you, Bill Cardwell, for setting it. Use it wisely if you are a SOR space traveler. And if you're a listener of give me 1 second here. Revolution Radio is a donation station, so if you're listening on Revolution Radio tonight, thank you for doing so. Remember, it is financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor and donate today. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow us, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to hear our archives, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can read Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire with the news items of the day. You can also read the latest blogs that are put out there. I put one out there today in regards to how to try and gain audience with an emotional commitment. That's a tough one. Wrote about that just this weekend. And of course, you could join the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. With that, you could be like Joe Allgaier and get a big win as we give prizes out the first, or make that the final Friday of every month, and so much more we are giving back to you. Join the SOR Space Travelers today. Gentlemen, welcome to the show once again.
Oh, it's always a blast.
Anyhow, now that we got all the technical snafus and all the promotions out of the way, we talk paranormal tonight. But before we do that, I want to say and make a little announcement here, because I think this is a good time of any. I was thinking during the break, and I said, what the hell? Why not? Why don't we do this? You guys are going to be falling under the Spaced Out Radio banner with your own show called S4. Eric Cooper,
exactly.
Tell us all about it.
Oh, I've been running S4 with Eric Cooper for about a month now. And I cover, we actually started out with Fog Paranormal doing the Area 51 Cafe. We had issues getting our show going, so we decided to branch off. My specialty is UFO and alien. Their specialty is ghost, haunting, spirits. So naturally my show would be alien and UFO oriented, and theirs is actually Supernatural Supper, which I believe is canceling because they're going to do as they can. But S4, if you're familiar with Area 51, was fitting for my show because S4 is the actual bunker on Area 51 that houses the UFOs and alien bodies and whatnot. So my show is S4. It's every Sunday night, 7 p.m., and it's going to stay that way. But now we are jumping under the SOAR banner, and we're jumping onto Spreaker, and now we're going to be S4 with E squared.
I love that name. I really do. You know,
it sounds like a mathematical formula.
It totally does. It totally does. And I have to say to our audience, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that I, as the host and the person behind Spaced Out Radio, really try and get involved with. I love being a part of the audience. I love having that interaction, whether you're a first-time listener, whether you are a long-time listener. Like, give me an example, AK Cog, who is in the chat rooms tonight, you know, he's been with me, I believe, since show number 3 that I did, which would have been back on December 2nd or 3rd of 2014. You know, yeah. I mean, that's a long run. And, you know, you learn to appreciate people like that, and you learn to appreciate what the audience wants, because in the end, that's what we're all about, is dictating what the audience wants. And to have gentlemen such as yourselves, along with some other people, and I'll name some names. I got, you hear me mention Bill Cardwell or Joe Algier on a nightly basis. They really keep the chat room going in the SOR Space Travelers. Gloria is a great listener. Corrine DeWinter, Elizabeth Anglin, who is now part of Spaced Out Weekend. These are good people who come along and really help us bring the best out of this show. And they are people that they're not only listeners, but they've made, like I just mentioned about my blog, about the emotional commitment to the program that is so hard to get for any show out there. Never mind the fact that there are 1,000,001 different types of podcasts out there, talking about these topics. So when we have you guys coming on board to bring another show. Now, this will be on the Spaced Out Radio side. It will not be on the Revolution Radio side. But if you're on Revolution Radio and you want to check them out, all you do is go to spacedoutradio.com. We're going to start in the next little bit here. We're going to get some details put up on that. So tell us about the show, Eric Markham, our news director of the SOR Spacewire.
Well, Coop's going to grab some really outrageous topics, and we're going to kick them around. I think it's the Illuminati this weekend, correct?
We're kicking off, yeah, and it's a perfect time to jump under SOAR because we're kicking the first SOAR banner show off with the Illuminati, and we're going to expose them for what they are. We actually have a guest, Christina George, is coming on board Sunday night. It's going to be 7 p.m. PST. And Christina actually lived outside Bohemian Grove and actually knows inside details about Bohemian Grove, which is the Illuminati's little resort stronghold. So it'll be a good show.
And you guys tackle some pretty hard shows on there. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do as well. And, anything that I can do to help, just let me know. You know how it works. That's kind of the way we have to do it. But I'm excited for you guys. And I'm excited to have you guys come under the Spaced Out Radio banner because it adds to kind of what we are doing in trying to provide really great and provocative topics on what people are talking about and trying to gather some and garner some truth out there to what is going on. So I think you guys should have some fun. Totally have some fun.
Oh, we will.
Our first show was great. First show together.
Our first show together was the RH negative factor, and we kind of disproved the fact that there's alien anything to do with the RH negative, because as some of the listeners don't know, Eric Markham is an actual scientist. He actually has, the document and the schooling that backs him up as a scientist, and he works in a medical facility working with blood. So he would be the perfect one, which is why I chose him for the guest speaker on RH negative. And then, just last night, I threw him some news topics to look at. And last night was an awesome show as well, talking about contactees, UFO cults, and past and present. So definitely.
Well, we're all over the place.
Well, and in the end, that's kind of what it is all about. It's about trying to have some fun and trying to get these topics out there. Because if you're not getting them out there, nobody really knows what is going on, and that's what we're trying to provide here. Am I correct?
Exactly.
It's difficult to wade through the BS. It really is. As the news director for SOR, I find intriguing stories all the time, and then when I try to, vet them and track down sources, it's almost, okay, toss a coin. Which truth do you want? It's more of a developing instincts to try and figure it out now.
But, that's where your personal experience comes into play.
Right.
As far as picking out the truth that you want to flip the coin on. And also your news source. You take your news source, you validate whether it's an actual legitimate news source. And then if is substantiated by your own personal experience and research that you've done, that's where you find the truth.
I also want to say that we're going to be adding one more thing to Spaced Out Radio here to our website, one more hot button topic. I have a gentleman named Mike Schultz who's coming on board. Now, he's not a social media guy. He is someone who loves the show. I've met him personally a number of times. We've had a lot of good discussion on this. And one of the things that we are going to be adding to the Spaced Out Radio website very, very soon is an actual experiencers page. So what I mean by that is, if you have a report that needs to be filed because you need someone to investigate what's happening on, maybe you have a Bigfoot sighting, maybe you have a paranormal sighting, maybe you have something along those lines that you just can't figure out and you want somebody to chat with, Mike Schultz will be our intrepid investigator to be able to provide live reports on the website as they happen. So everything will be private, everything will be confidential, and what we will do is write out the report, he'll write out a report, and it will be able to be accessed on the Spaced Out Radio website coming on up. So it adds another dimension to something that we are doing.
So instead of MUFON, we have Sarufo.
Sarufo.
There you go.
All right.
Well, you
I
know
like
what?
that better anyway.
You know what? The reason why I do that, reason why I figured out we would do that, guys, is because on Spaced Out Radio and on the weekends, we really try to be a show for the experiencer, to bring these experiences to life. Okay? Now, we may bring a broad range of topics, but if something catches the attention of somebody who's experienced something like that, what it does is it allows us to try and get that one step closer, maybe in a different point of view, for trying to figure out what is happening, whether it's life after death, whether it's what's flying up in the sky ufologically, whether it's aliens, whether it's cryptids in the forest or the water around, or so on and so forth. You know, so this is kind of what I'm trying to do here. And I think...
And here's the thing, Dave. A lot of experiencers don't know they're experiencers yet. They have strange phenomena happening in their lives, and all of a sudden they see your show advertised, and that particular guest, I believe everything happens when it's supposed to for a reason. So all of a sudden your show's going to pop up on their Facebook feed, and that guest is going to talk about what they're going through, and they're going to latch on. And they're going to listen. And then all of a sudden they're going to find out they're an experiencer, and they have a format to go through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think what it does is it ties everybody together, you know, a little bit cleaner, and that way we could have real reports from real people who are listening, and we can possibly get some answers to what is going on. And I think that's important for everyone to be able to figure out, so that way they know that they have a place to, you know, have their sighting or their experience, you know, that they have someone to talk to, that they have someone who's going to believe them, not ridicule them, somebody who's not going to prejudge them, and somebody who can look into the case as to what is happening and just kind of say, hey, you know what, we're giving you somebody here who can, you know, talk with you.
And the bottom line, they know that there's others out there that are going through the same things, and that they're not crazy. They're not, because, you know, if you go talking about your experience with the general public, a lot of times you get ridiculed, you get, you know, labeled. And if they find the right format where we accept them, because, well, most of us are investigators, and we see their experiences all the time. So they're made to feel welcome and made to feel accepted, because we kind of know what they're dealing with and what they're going through and how to handle it.
We provide a judgment-free zone, so to speak.
Right.
I mean, we let them have their say, and then if our own BS detectors go off, that's fine. But we don't we don't call them on it. We just, accept and move on. If it's somebody who's nipping the bottle a little too much, or, we find out if it's for real, verify it. So it's even with family. I mean, I've had some experiences, and when your own family is like, yeah, haha, it's great to have some place to go where you're not going to get the usual reaction to a paranormal event.
Mm-hmm. And in the end, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, because you deal with people who are in conflict with something paranormal on a daily basis. Do you find that, or let me put the question this way, do you feel that most people who are experiencers really lack the ability to have that communication with a lot of people in their close-knit circle?
Yes and no. I've had experiencers talk to me that their best friends didn't even know what was going on with them, and until they saw, until they found our group, for example, and they started seeing other people talking about the same thing they're going through, then all of a sudden they opened up. And here locally, I'll put, because I run a community group as well here for Concrete, and I deal with emergency situations and disaster situations, things like that, on the non-paranormal side. But as far as the upriver community goes here in Concrete, I will plug Forest Moon Paranormal, and I will throw out a blurb every once in a while. Have you seen Bigfoot? Have you seen a UFO? And if you have, and you don't want to talk about it here, obviously, then send me a private message. And it's amazing some of the private messages I get, and they're just talking about Bigfoot. They're not even talking about alien abduction or the UFO or and they're scared to talk about Bigfoot, which is probably one of the more open topics in this community, because we're in the mountains. Everyone sees Bigfoot here, but they're still nervous about talking about it in front of their friends, in front of their colleagues. And I mean, and if they're nervous about talking about some of the more common things up here, then darn well that the abductee and the one that's getting harassed by the spirit isn't going to talk about it. So, yeah, I'd have to say, I think a lot of people, until they find you on Facebook, which is our main format, they'll keep quiet. And I think there's a lot more numbers out there than we ever even begin to realize.
Eric Markham from the SOR Space Wire, do you think, as an experiencer yourself and knowing people who are experiencers, that they are someone who is, I don't want to say looked down upon because that is so wrong, but they're people who really aren't given the appreciation or the respect for what they are going through?
Yes and no. I see that by and large people are starting to be a little more respectful of it. Maybe because of, we hate some of the reality TV shows, but they have brought the experience into the mainstream somewhat. And even though most of us know what we're seeing on there is BS, the average person maybe isn't quite as quick to dismiss or think, I'm trying to figure out the right way. I'm like you, it's not so much being looked down on, but just, he's sort of,
not looked down upon.
There's something not quite right, you're not conforming to the societal norm because you're saying, I have seen this. And you're dead serious about it. And I think it gives people pause as much as anything.
I think it does too, because a lot of people, I'll give you an example. Mike Schultz will be running our SOR Live or Space Reports or whatever we're going to call it. I haven't figured out a good name for it yet. But, here's a guy who I'm the only one he's really told his stories to because of the fear of the ridicule that comes along with topics like this, the fear of the the people laughing, the people thinking you're crazy, the people thinking that, you're a little nuts or whatever it may be. And that doesn't matter if you're male, female, whatever.
And they're not, and it's not even so much open ridicule, because most people aren't going to sit there and openly ridicule you, but these are the people that are sitting there whispering behind your back and pointing at you and snickering, and that's what most of them go through and are afraid of.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree. So I mean, when you talk to Mike, and he'll sit there and he'll tell me, like, you're the first one who I've actually talked to about this, and he goes, to this day he still gets a little weirded out that we're even talking about it, because he's never opened up about what he's seen, and he's seen some pretty cool things. He is someone who is, retired at a young age. He's in a good financial situation where he could retire. He's someone who likes to live in the wilderness. He likes to be out out in the bush, prospecting for gold or hunting or something along those lines. But nobody's ever talked to him, like for most experiencers, what do you do when all of a sudden there's a black triangle over you and there's no sound and it's not moving? You know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of things that happen out in the forests or out in the mountains where you just can't have an answer for it. So that's kind of what it's all about. And I think if we give our listeners an opportunity to have a place where they can share their experience without feeling that ridicule or something along those lines, I think it takes a whole new turn, just like adding your show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to do.
Well, I mean, you're out there. You have this encounter. Who do you tell? I mean, who can you share? You've just had something amazing happen. It's almost like hitting the lottery. But where do you go? I mean, who do you talk to? It's hard to share that.
I just had a woman that posted a UFO sighting that they saw back in Linwood, Washington, matter of fact, that they saw in, I think it was 2 years ago. And I asked her, was it reported? Because, I mean, it was a phenomenal-looking light. They actually got it as it was going. They didn't get the camera until it was already, going the other direction. But it was a triangle. It was, you could actually see it. And no, they didn't report it. And most of these people, where do they report it to? What are they going to do? Call the news channel? They did what? They did whatever everybody else does. They put the video up on Facebook, and I mean that was 2 years ago.
Right.
So they threw the video up on Facebook, and she posted it in Forest Moon, and so and then after talking to her, there's a little more to her case that we'll be getting into.
Well, you bring up a good point, Coop, in regards to this. Where do people report this? I mean, yes, people used to report sightings to MUFON, but let's face it, since Robert Bigelow kind of took over MUFON, there's questions whether or not MUFON is having reports out there. Allegedly, they are skipping over certain reports or not making public certain reports. Now, we do have to say allegedly on that. Okay.
Right.
So where do they turn? Because not everybody is trusting people on the other line. And let's face it, I once heard a statistic, and Coop, I'm curious to get your opinion on this. And I don't know how true this is. I'm just bringing this up for part of conversation. But I once heard a statistic that over 70% of all UFO websites out there are one way or another run by government intel. Now, that could be total conspiracy, or there may be validity to that. That number may have shrank. This is going back a couple of years. Okay, but with the popularity of it, you never know.
I would venture to guess it's probably shrank. I look at a lot of them, and there's a lot of them I don't look and won't look at, and I won't say their names on here because, well, I've already been threatened, and you know about that, threatened by them as far as I won't slander, but it's a known fact. There are sites out there that are straight debunking, straight disinformation, and no, I would say that number shrunk. I would say 30. I'll go out and say 30%, because I'd say most of them, since it's become more and more popular about the UFO side anyway, more and more people come out and put up their own sites about it. Now, are their sites just as valid and just as true? Maybe. It's your perception based on your experience and the research you yourself have done. And that's how I look at it.
Oh, absolutely. And what is your opinion of that, Eric Markham?
I'm thinking that by and large, I think everybody's pretty much accepted that we're not alone. I don't think it's as big a issue to the government. It's kind of the cat's already out of the bag. Let's not waste time and resources trying to put it back in the bag. I think we're just on a slow burning fuse right now until everybody just pretty much, we're waiting for the government to do this big disclosure, but
it's not going to happen.
No, and I think personally, if having flying saucers fly through D.C. 30 years ago didn't do it, nothing will.
No.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I will say, though, because more and more people have admitted that, yeah, there's life out there. But let's talk about UFOs for a second, because you got two different branches of people. You got the branch that says, oh, they're not. A UFO is nothing but an unidentified flying object. It does not mean it's ET. You've got half of them that are going to say it's ET. You got the other half that's going to say it's an experimental craft. That's where the UFO field's gone.
It is very interesting because you're right, Coop. There are a lot of people out there who try and, take that whole title of UFO and break it down even further. It's something that I find very frustrating because can we not just keep UFO to alien things? It's been like that since Roswell. Can we not? Do we have to continue to try and break things down to make the whole thing a little bit more politically correct? Right. I don't think that's right. I really don't. I really don't think it's right.
And what's funny is you look at Blue Book, and I can't remember the statistics directly, but I know out of let's say 12,000 cases that were identified, 600 weren't. And those are made up numbers. That's just an example. And okay, so you think you identified 12,000 of them. Just the fact that you have 600 unidentified ones should be significant.
Exactly. And you've got something you couldn't prove by a prosaic, something that wasn't prosaic.
But here's the thing. They didn't shut Blue Book down. They say they did, and it came out on paper they did. But, oh, no, good and well, the government is still looking, and they're actually deeper than that. They're actually working with the aliens through mill labs. Now, what intrigues me is USOs, and that's unidentified submergible objects. Now, I think the best movie that portrays USOs is The Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That was a great movie.
Yeah, and to me, it looked very factually done. I mean, just the lighting of the city under the ocean and whatnot is everything I would imagine their city to look like.
And not just that, but it was one of the rare movies out there that actually portrayed UFOs as a positive outcome. And it was the Navy SEALs that were the ones that were causing the havoc.
Right. Yeah, the theatrical version, there was actually an extended director's cut. There's a point in the director's cut where the nuke has dropped down into the abyss, and the aliens send this huge tidal wave. gigantic tidal wave. But when the guy goes down to retrieve it and disarm it, they freeze it. They freeze the tidal wave, and then it
I could see that
recedes,
happen.
and then you had the normal. But it's like, we'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they took that out to give the aliens a little more, a softer appearance.
Which is
honestly, Dave, until I started listening to Thor a few months ago, I've never heard of a positive story about aliens. Now, in my mind, I had no idea that maybe there were some out there, because there's 160 different species in the book that we've got, and there's probably a lot more than that. That's just in the Russian version. But until I started listening to Spaced Out Radio, I had no idea that there were actually people that are experiencing positive alien encounters. Because dealing with only abductees, I only see the negative. And
by nature, what you do, you see the bad side of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? And like Eric Markham just said, by the nature of what you do, because the people who are having the quality experiences aren't going to rush up to you and say, "Oh my God, Coop, why am I having such good alien experiences?
Right?
Why am I not getting anal probed? Why, and we make light of that story, but let's face it, there is just a number of situations out there where we have the ability to open that up, and I got to be honest with you, up until I heard Karina Sables on this show about a month and a bit ago, back in June, tell about her story, I didn't know that there were very many Canadian people who were actually having the negative experiences, because the people I had talked to had all had positive.
Huh. Okay. And that's probably partially, like we talked before, a difference in country and a difference in culture.
And government policy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
thinking
there you go. There you go.
Y'all didn't get sold out by your government to be guinea pigs for somebody.
Right.
Well, I mean, not all is bad, though. Not all is bad. I mean, you guys always win in the movies.
Yeah, they need to do the movie where it would really be Godzilla versus Bambi if that were to happen.
Right. I don't think we're going to win in ID3.
I don't know.
I don't see how we can. My whole thought has always been, if you can cross the vast distances, beat the relativity and all the power it would take to either use a worm, make a wormhole. If you can get here from somewhere else, interstellar, you're not going to there's nothing we have in our arsenal that's going to bother you.
No, not at all.
Bugs on a windshield.
Here's where I stand on that, though. I do think, after hearing what I've heard with some of your guests here, and I do have to stand and think there's positive species here that are basically looking out for the human race like we're their children, and I think they're keeping the negative species at bay. I think there's a war that goes on.
So. I don't think there's so much as a war. I don't think there's so much as a war, Eric, as there is maybe a very strict agreement.
Yeah, because I look at the reptilian. That's where I stand. Is because that's the only personal experience I've had with the reptilian species. And honestly, if they really wanted to screw stuff up on this planet, they could, because they're everywhere. Whereas you hear about the Nordics, they're on the European continent. You don't hear about them so much here. But you hear about the reptilians everywhere. And you hear about the Greys everywhere.
As well as the Pleiadians and Arcturians,
Right.
which seem to hang out a little bit more in North America. But here's an interesting sideshow to that. I mean, I would love to try and get someone on this, and I'm going to track this story down. I don't know how long it'll take me, but eventually I will get to it. And that is, apparently, when the certain species would land their ships at Area 51, most commonly S4, like your show name, what would happen is they were humanoid type species. And there's actual stories out there, and I don't know how believable they are, but that's the beauty of doing a show like this, is you get to investigate these weird stories. You know, you look for facts. Sometimes you don't find them. Sometimes it's, just folklore. But there's actual stories out there that some of these humanoid type aliens would come down, park their spaceship at Area 51, and then get bussed into Las Vegas or flown into Las Vegas, where they could hang out and watch people and take in the casinos, because they absolutely loved the casinos. And mainly, it was said the casino's name that keeps popping up is one that is now closed, which is the Sahara.
Huh. I'm surprised it wouldn't be the Biloxi. The pyramid one.
Luxor there, yeah. No, but that
Luxor,
wasn't.
there you go.
That wasn't open at that time when these stories were coming out. The Luxor wasn't even open.
Okay.
Don is asking, why would they land there? Well, there's an agreement.
There's an agreement, and it's already classified. They already have an arrangement with the government to keep themselves secret, and the government's already got what's the word? Conditions in place to keep civilian eyes. I mean, they bought the Groom Lake mountain range. That's not the name of the mountain range. I can't remember. The Air Force Secretary bought the mountain range that overlooks Area 51 because people are going up on the mountain range and taking pictures down below. So they've already got a secure location. They've got an arrangement with the government that they won't disclose themselves. So that would be the ideal place to go. And then, of course, the government buses them into town so they can have a latte and a slot machine.
I'm going to read you this story here because I think this is very interesting. This comes from metro.co.uk back in 2014. Anyone who has been to a Las Vegas casino might not have too much difficulty believing that there are extraterrestrials wearing human outfits blending in with the other weirdos on the slots. But an American author named Charles Hall, who has not been on this show, but hopefully will, claims that ETs frequently hit bars on the Las Vegas Strip.
No, they go to Fremont Street.
Well, that's still technically the Strip. That's the original Strip. That's the original.
Okay.
This is his quote in the story. In 1964, when I was a weather observer at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, I witnessed interactions between the military and a group of mysterious, tall, white, human-like extraterrestrials. Their craft are capable of traveling faster than the speed of light because Einstein was wrong about relativity. Hall worked at the former military site near Las Vegas, where he claimed that many of the personnel had met and dealt with tall whites, but which has since been disused. When you encounter the tall whites, he says, it's such a shock you're not sure if you're even looking at a ghost or an angel or if you're dreaming. Very interesting.
Let me see if I can track him down.
Yeah.
You know, but
another one, if you can find him, would be Bob Lazar.
You know what's weird about that? I'll tell you a little story about that. When I first went to air, Bob Lazar added me on Facebook.
Okay.
And we had a bunch of mutual friends in common. And all of a sudden, one day, poof, he was not on Facebook anymore. I know he lives in Michigan. I know he is not very well versed in wanting to talk about his topics anymore and what he saw there. I think he wants to get out of the public eye. But
he got threatened.
Well, he's been threatened since the day he moved out, and I really believe strongly that, you know, George Knapp is one of the people who helped keep him alive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They did everything to Bob Lazar to try and make him disappear without killing him. I mean, they erased his school records. I believe they erased most of his high school records.
They did everything they could to make him look completely unfounded.
I think somebody actually found a internal phone book for down at where's that, New Mexico he worked. It just popped out of my head. But anyhow, they found an internal. Well, he had worked at a JPL, maybe it was, and and Stanton Friedman was always saying, "Oh, he never was there." Well, somebody found an internal phone book, and guess who's in the internal phone book? Bob Lazar.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think his story is completely true. Personally,
I do too.
It just has that ring.
And some of the facts, like the element 115. 115 that came out by him, and then it was found to be true a few years later. I mean, oh no, you don't just come up with that stuff.
Yeah, that's.
No, you just don't make it up.
I think it's one of those elements that lasts in nanoseconds, but that's just because we don't have a grasp on how to make some of those heavier elements stay stable.
Mm-hmm. I have a question from Joe Allgaier in the SOR Space Travelers. He says, ask Eric, I'm not sure which one, so I'll ask you both, about what you know about China Lake, because he worked there for a while. Maybe we should be asking
China Lake.
Maybe we should be asking Joe about China Lake.
Right? Yeah. What do you know about China Lake, Joe?
That's a naval air weapons station.
It is. I'm trying to remember where it's at.
Is that the one where Gordon Cooper had his sighting that he supposedly filmed, and then when he sent it off, it disappeared?
Mm-hmm.
There's two different ones. There's the China Lake out in California, and I believe there's a Coast Guard station called China Lake.
Okay. It probably went in California then.
Probably, yeah, I would think. Because it seems to me when Gordon Cooper had his, I cannot remember, and pretty much for me that was disclosure, because when Gordon Cooper said he'd seen one, he doesn't have a dog in the race. He'd been to the moon. What does he need to be on? What does and I'm a UFO experiencer too. Yeah, well, you're an astronaut.
Right, and they saw UFOs outside their rockets. I mean, come on now.
I think it's amazing how many UFO sightings happen by cosmonauts or astronauts that are not told.
Commercial pilots. Yeah, and commercial pilots will say, they see them all the time, but you don't report them because you don't want to fly a desk.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, and the FAA gets involved and threatens them on that one.
Well, you look at the pilot who flew Japan Airlines Flight 1628, that literally almost, the 747 that almost ran into a UFO mothership over Juneau, Alaska.
Right, I remember that one.
When he landed that plane,
very incredible.
When he landed that plane back in Japan, he's never flown commercially again. He was done.
And that's probably common.
Oh yeah, he spoke out and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
He was, Gordon Cooper had seen, I think his first one he saw in 1951, pre-astronaut days. He said he saw some on his Mercury flight in 57. And then Edwards Air Force Base, he saw, is the one that apparently the thing landed. They got pictures of, they got film of it landing. And
yeah, I think I
sent
think
it
I have
off,
that
and that
case.
was the end.
I think I have that case in the Paracon.
Yeah.
In the Paracon presentation.
So for me, Gordon Cooper, that was disclosure for me. I mean, how do you, you don't have a much better source than that. There's people been put on death row with less credible witnesses when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. There is so many stories out there. And just so you know, Joe says, let me see here. Joe is saying Air Force has the Ellis Air Force Base, the Navy has China Lake, and I believe it was just over the hill from Area 51.
China Lake,
Janus flights come in.
So
yeah. In fact, the Janus flight has a hangar at the Vegas airport.
Yes, they do. The Janet jets are always up and going.
Uh-huh.
I actually, on a flight one time, we got delayed because did you know at McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas, which is literally right on the strip, that when a Janet jet is taking off, they have full priority of the airport.
I'm not surprised at all.
No, that doesn't surprise me.
all flights are delayed until the Janet jet takes off.
And I'm sure they watch for cameras.
They actually had one land at the little. There's a tiny little airport on top of a bluff in Bullhead City, Arizona, and I heard that when I was down there working as a contract tech, that was in the news down there that one of those jets had landed there, and everything was like
Before I pass on this planet, I plan on driving the extraterrestrial highway and stopping in the Little Alien and having a cup of coffee.
That sounds like a good live show for S4 or SOR.
I'm good for that, gentlemen. I am good for that.
E squared on the road. Now that would just be. That sounds like a good short film.
Oh, for sure.
We'll have to figure out how to get that together.
I fully agree. I think it would be a good time. That is a road trip I would want to be a part of, and I know Mrs. SOR would probably want to be a part of too. We need to plan that. We definitely need to plan that. And you know what's funny? And I've told this story. I'm not sure if you guys have heard it. I have a buddy of mine who's involved in the music industry in Las Vegas. And he's really big into the UFOs and, government conspiracies, things like that, because believe it or not, most musicians actually are, especially in rock and roll. Anyways, he was telling me one time how he got curious about the Janet jets. So he waited for one to land, and he waited for the people to debark. Would that be the word? Debark the plane?
Disembark.
Disembark, sorry. Thank you. My vocabulary apparently is not working today after the whole New Orleans, Louisiana thing.
Right? Louisiana. Yeah. You're fine.
Anyways, so, much like half of Las Vegas, he has a Cadillac Escalade that's tinted out, and he follows home one of these people who came off the Janet jet.
Uh-oh.
He was curious. Well, apparently his sleuthing skills were not very good because he watched the person pull into their driveway, and he turned around in the cul-de-sac, headed back towards the road when he was pulled over by other black SUVs.
Oh, wow.
And he was taken out of the vehicle and basically asked, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You should not be doing this. This is your one and only warning that if you ever do this again, you will go away for a long, long time and nobody will ever see you again.
Oh, that's when I would want a damn a mini recorder. I want to record that conversation.
Yeah.
I bet they can tell if you've got anything like that on you.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. And we only got about 30 seconds left, guys.
Holy crap.
I know. It went fast. Well, pardon me. We got about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left before I got to start wrapping things out. But here's the thing with that story. That would mean that every person who comes off that plane, whatever car they buy, they must have a signal where they can get a hold of someone if they feel they're being followed or something along those lines. So the boys in the suits come and intercept whoever may be following them. That's number one. You know, number two would be
they have a whole lot of people watching.
Exactly.
It will be number two. They got a whole slew of suits, and the little jerks in Matrix come to mind, Mr. Smith.
Oh, the agent, Agent Smith.
Agent Smith. Yeah, they got to have a whole army of little Agent Smiths just watching each and every employee that embarks from the Janus flight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's never a leak from one of those people. I bet they can't even pass gas in their own home without it being recorded, filed in triplicate and passed on to a handler somewhere. That would be an impressive way to live.
But you know what? If you follow what Bob Lazar said, they don't see anything. They are blocked off, okay, to when you ride your bus to your area, the windows are all blacked out.
Black windows.
You can't see anything else. They have tape on the lines. You cannot stray. You're color coordinated to the tape on the grounds where you cannot stray off that line. You cannot look in certain rooms. You cannot look in certain areas. Like, it is full on huge when it comes to security. I'm surprised that they don't even supply, their own toilet paper per person type thing. Like, can you imagine if you got to go to the bathroom bad, what happens?
You got to do the pee-pee dance and wait for the door to get unlocked.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. I couldn't do that.
I can't imagine working under those conditions. It's bad enough here in this hospital that, I have to use my badge to get through the employee door. I have to badge in to the time clock. I have to badge into this laboratory, and our break room has a 4-digit push-button lock on it. And that's just a little podunk, middle of nowhere hospital. I cannot imagine what it must be like at a place like Area 51.
Well, they probably have retinal scanners there, I'm sure.
Oh,
yes,
I'm sure.
Absolutely. Gentlemen,
biometrics.
It's time for me to wrap this up. I hate to say goodnight, but I'm going to get you guys to hold on. Sit tight.
All right.
Just sit and look pretty for a little bit. Remember, we are still live on the Studio B with Revolution Radio. I'm wrapping this up. If you're listening outside of RR Revolution Radio, you hear the man, the myth, the guitar god legend, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. He is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. He's rocking us home tonight. I want to say thank you to Cari Roy, psychic extraordinaire from New Orleans, telling us all about the haunted past and voodoo past of New Orleans and Louisiana. NewOrleansPsychic.com, ParanormalNewOrleans.com are her websites. Check them out today. I want to say thank you to Eric Squared as well for coming in on the third hour. Who knows? We had so much fun tonight. They may be back tomorrow night as well. You never know, because we got 2 hours tomorrow night with John Ventry talking the Kecksburg incident and ufology, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Everything at spacedoutradio.com, freedomslips.com, on Revolution Radio. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website, once again, is spacedoutradio.com. You guys have a good one. Take care.
Watching